We're live. We're live and we're good to go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. It's to our council meeting of May 9th. As we have a quorum, I will call the meeting to order. It is 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, can you read out your opening statement, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on our website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The purpose of a council meeting is to enact powers given to council using bylaws or resolutions and is the venue for debate of issues before voting on a bylaw or resolution. This meeting is being conducted through the city's One Meeting platform. However, we are experiencing issues with the PrimeGov solution for live meeting management. They're still being addressed by the vendor. In the interim, we will not be using the system for voting and speaker management purposes. Instead, council has been provided with voting cards, green for in favor, red for opposed, yellow for point of order. We will manually take notes of the votes and log them into the system. To be put on the speaker list, please physically raise your hand so that the mayor can add you to the list. For members of the public who would like to speak during public question period, if you're participating electronically, please register as a speaker by clicking on the microphone icon in the One Meeting portal and turn on your camera and clearly state your name and city of residence before beginning your comments. If you're attending the meeting in person, please come forward to the podium when the mayor invites speakers and clearly state your name and city of residence before beginning comments. That concludes our opening statement.
Thank you very much. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the city of Maple Ridge carried out its business on the traditional and unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. Moving on to item two, are there any amendments to the agenda? Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Worship. We are removing delegation item 6.1 as they are unable to attend tonight.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for the amendment to the agenda? Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion has been approved. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Carreras, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Any comments? Nothing. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. And finally, we're moving on to adoption of minutes for the regular council meeting of April 25th, 2023. Can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Duick. Any comments? No. Seeing none. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Motion has been carried. Since we have no delegations, Madam Clerk, can you introduce the next item, please?
Thank you, Worship. The next item is item number 7, consent agenda, which includes development agreements committee minutes, downtown Maple Ridge BIA correspondence, and the Chamber of Commerce Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments or questions? Seeing Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real briefly, I wanted to highlight item 7.2 and item 7.3, the correspondence that we've received from the Downtown Business Improvement Association and the Chamber of Commerce, both expressing concern about individuals in the community and, of course, the issue of open drug use in municipal park and public spaces. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody, any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, it is unanimous. Thank you very much. We are now going to move to item 9 for adoption. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Worship. The next item is 9.1, the 2023 to 2027 financial plan bylaw number 7926-2023.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments or questions? Councillor Carreras.
Just quickly to share with the community that we had quite a long discussion and lots of comments on the next few motions at our last meeting. So I just want to share with people that you may want to go back to the April 25th meeting to hear the comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments or questions, all those in favor of 9.1? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. We're moving on to 9.2. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 9.2 is 2023 property tax rate bylaw number 7927-2023.
Thank you. Can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it is unanimous. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 9.3, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Item 9.3 is the Maple Ridge Albion Dyking District Tax Rates bylaw number 7923-2023.
Thank you. Can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Item 9.4, Madam Clerk.
Item 9.4 is Maple Ridge Road 13 Dyking District Tax Rates bylaw number 7924-2023.
Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Moving on to 9.5, Madam Clerk.
Item 9.5 is the intermunicipal TNS, which stands for Transportation Network Services Business License Bylaw number 7917-2023, which permits businesses to operate across jurisdictional boundaries.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. And then finally to 9.6. Madam Clerk.
Item 9.6 is the intermunicipal TNS Business License Agreement bylaw number 7918-2023 to allow the city to enter into an agreement with the participating municipalities.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. All those in, any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next section, 10. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10, committee reports and recommendations. The items in this category are staff reports presented at an earlier committee of the whole meeting, typically a week prior, to provide council with an opportunity to ask staff detailed questions. The items are now before council before a regular council meeting for debate and vote. Both meetings are open to the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving to 10.1. Madam Clerk.
Item 10.1 is a zone amending bylaw number 7929-2023 to permit secondary suites and detached garden suites on the same lot in the agricultural land reserve.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions? Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real briefly, I will be supporting this, and I'm happy to, as was discussed with staff, that it will not only provide an added stock to our housing stock that's existing, but even though less than 50 properties are within the urban area boundaries, I'm comfortable in that the properties that are outside, when it comes to servicing, be it water or sewer, will be at the cost of the owners themselves and not on the backs of taxpayers. Therefore, I will be supporting it to move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. Moving to 10.2. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.2 is a temporary use permit number 2022-286-RZ to allow a temporary office and outdoor storage be forwarded to public hearing and subsequent council meeting for a decision once the terms and conditions outlined in the report have been met. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Counselor Carrera, seconded by Counselor Schiller. Any comments, questions, speakers list? Being none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Moving on to 10.3, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.3 is application 2023, sorry, pardon me. Item 3 is zone amendment bylaw number 7921-2023 to rezone from RS3 single detached rural residential to RS2 single detached suburban residential to permit a future subdivision of 2 single-family residential lots be given first reading and that the applicant provide further information as outlined in the report.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Schiller. Any comments or questions? Counselor Schiller.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Remy. I spent quite a lot of time thinking about this one, and I want to thank staff who provided a lot of background information since this came before us last week. I had some questions about the capacity of the city water system to absorb this kind of development, and I understand that that capacity is there. And I can also see in looking at that documentation that, this question of sort of this type of development has been looked at by numerous councils over the years. And I don't dismiss that in any way. But I do feel an obligation to sort of represent the moment that we are in when we are struggling to provide infrastructure and meet the demands of the residents. And I'm concerned that developing and labeling these lots as suburban on the outer edges of our community cost the community in a lot of ways. So I will be opposing this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further comments? Counselor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor Rumi. I appreciate Councillor Schiller's comment about the cost of infrastructure to our city, and I do struggle with this one. I will be supporting this motion. However, I think this is a good, this has prompted me to think further about the need for us to ensure that development is contained largely in the urban boundary and particularly closer to the town center where there is infrastructure and where the city will not be increasing the burden to itself of infrastructure. Thank you, Mayor Rumi.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried 6-1. Thank you. And moving on to 10.4, please. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.4 is zone amending bylaw number 7762-2021 to rezone from RS1 single detached residential to R3 single detached intensive urban residential to permit a future subdivision of 3 lots and a rear lane access be given second reading and be forwarded to public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Carreras. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move to item 10.5, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.5 is zone amending bylaw number 7754-2021 to rezone from RS1 single detached residential to R1 single detached low density urban residential to permit a future subdivision of 2 lots be given second reading and forwarded to public hearing.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Doze. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Carried. Item has been carried. Thank you. Item 10.6, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.6 is zone amending bylaw numbers 7821-2021 to rezone from RS1 single detached residential to R1 single detached low density urban residential to permit a future subdivision of 2 lots be given second reading and forwarded to public hearing.
Thank you very much. Can I get a mover? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Doze. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move to item 10.7, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.7 is recommending the corporate officer be authorized to sign and seal DVP 2023-022 respecting property located at 20523 Lorne Avenue to reduce the minimum right-of-way for the existing standard lane at the rear of the subject property from the required 7.5 meters to 6 meters.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Doze. Wave it high. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, it is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 10.8. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.8 is recommending that the corporate officer be authorized to sign and seal variance permit 2023-055 respecting the properties located at 28621 104 Avenue and 10455 287 Street to waive the requirement to improve surfacing, curbing, drainage, or other works identified in Schedule A on existing highways within or immediately adjacent to a proposed subdivision or development to the standard prescribed in the bylaw, where the standard is less than the prescribed by the bylaw for the existing zone.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, it is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Moving on to 10.9, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Worship. Item 10.9 is recommending that the 2022 consolidated financial statements be approved.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Any comments or questions? Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. Sorry, this microphone's really sticky. I just wanted to say a few words as chair of the Finance and Audit Committee. This first came to the Finance and Audit Committee at our last meeting, and then it went to Council of the Whole. And there was a very, very good presentation by Ms. Nolan around the financial statements, and in particular around things around our surplus. This is where the financial statements get a bit challenging sometimes to understand without that presentation. So I encourage people to go and look. The large number that you see is not actually the money we have to play with. And in fact, it's quite a small amount in our surplus, around 25 million that we actually can deal with. And we use that in subsequent years, like the one coming up. The auditor did meet with us at the Finance and Audit Committee. It is a clean report and there were no concerns raised. So I just urge my colleagues to approve these reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Moving on to 10.10, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.10 is recommending that the 2023 to 2026 Council Strategic Plan be adopted.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Comments, questions? Councillor Carreras.
Thank you very much. I'm just sort of scrolling to my comments here. This was a big piece of work for all of us. And I think it's important to share that and thank each other for the work on this, strategic plan. This is going to set our plan for the next 4 years. And I really do look forward to staff sort of building out all the action plans, but I just want to comment quickly on the values, our core values of excellence, integrity, innovation, leadership, equity, diversity, inclusiveness, which is important to me. And the most important thing I think that we all sort of talked about was strong relationships and the need for strong relationships to move forward. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who worked really hard on this. And I really enjoyed the time that we spent together sort of talking about our vision for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Before we move on to 10.11, just a reminder, if you can turn your cell phones off. So it's always nice to have the music on certain phones, but it's a bit of a distraction. So Madam Clerk, 10.11.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 10.11 is recommending that contract PL 23-1 data recabling and server room relocation project be awarded to IDR Commercial Construction Management. A contract contingency be approved to address variations in the building condition, the project budget be increased, and that the corporate officer be authorized to execute the contract.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Carrera, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is unanimously carried and passed. Thank you very much. We are now going to go to item 13, public question period. Did you, Madam Clerk, did you have something, an outline? Oh, okay. So public question period, just so we're all on the same page, it's 2 minutes. And normally it's about 15 minutes of time total. I do recognize there's quite a few people here. So if we are close to the time, I will ask council if they would like to extend that time to make sure that everybody has a fair chance. Having said that, it is 2 minutes and not more. We want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak. So for those who want to come up to the podium, state your name and where you live, and you're good to go.
The council is to decide, let's say this month, to go ahead with a safe injection site or an expansion of the existing one. How long would it take to put in place? How long would it take to put in place, and what conditions would have to be met?
Thank you. That's not a question that we have discussed at this point. Excuse me. There is no comments from there. You have a chance to speak when you get to the podium. And I would really like everybody to honor that so we maintain decorum tonight. So to answer your question, at this point, that has not been a topic of conversation to date. So it's a little bit premature to even try to answer that question.
So my understanding is it's become a public issue around the province that Maple Ridge Council has been, at least one councillor has been thinking of changing the conditions under which people could do their self-medication. And I got to say, why hasn't council discussed the idea of an alternative, like a safe injection site, if it's possible that a motion might be passed saying that people could no longer use public parks and other public spaces?
So very quickly, the notice of motion has not been moved. So that's why there has been no discussion on that matter. So
I see.
After question period, there will be the opportunity for that motion to be moved and discussion will be had between council, and then we go from there. Okay.
So
Thank you.
people have to wait until next council meeting before they can ask a question on this topic.
There is no topic at this point because the motion is not on the floor. That is process, that is procedure. And that's all that I can tell you.
I'm just
about that.
asking, you don't have to lecture me. I'm asking if the next council meeting, if the motion's on the floor tonight, if the next council meeting would be open to questions on that topic? Or would you limit the questions particularly to the places where people could inject or otherwise use drugs?
Okay.
Would we have to wait again in order to ask a question about what the alternatives might be?
Mr. Ranta, asked and answered. I've answered that question. As I said, the motion has not been moved yet, so I can't answer that question. I do not want to bias the outcome of that conversation right now. So that's all that I can tell you right now. And unfortunately, your time is up, sir. So thank you very much.
Thank you, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Ted Ingram, and I live here in Maple Ridge. I also noticed Mr. Youssef's comments in the news. And I'm in support of them in general, but I would like to have this as an opportunities model, not as a consequence model. Where will we allow people who don't have a home or perhaps just an opportunity to privately use their own choice of drugs? So as I say, just an opportunities model. What are we going to provide? Where will people go to smoke marijuana, crack, or whatever it is they want to do? That's, I believe, an opportunity for us to move in a good direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Hi, I'm Tracy Scott, and I'm the co-founding president and director of Maple Ridge Street Outreach Society. I am from your streets in Maple Ridge. I lived on these streets for 3 years with my dog, and I fight for the people so that they can get whatever they need to help them, whether it be treatment or anything else. But these people live in your streets, and all I'm asking is that council please think about a safe place for them to go use, only because it's not just for using. Safe Injection Site has medical things there, benefits. So the diseases these people get or whatever they get, it gets taken care of. It doesn't stay on your street. Okay. They have somewhere to go where they can actually be social, be treated equally when they're in there together. You know what I mean? It's a place to actually, it will benefit the town and the people. These people will get medical care. They will get everything they need in there and referrals to wherever they need to go. So I'm just asking council, can you please think about that? Because these people are human, just like you, just like any one of us. And they need a place to go. Right now, their home is the street. If you drink and you do cocaine or whatever it is you choose to do on the weekends, because everyone is an addict, everybody, doesn't matter what it is, anything that alters your mood or changes your mood in any way, shape, or form is a drug to you. But you have a home to do it in. Their home is their streets. So just think about it for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next.
My name is Gina
State your
Bishop.
name and city, please.
Gina Bishop, Maple Ridge. I also want to discuss the same topic. While I do agree that the residents of Maple Ridge, children, families, seniors, individuals do deserve to have safe places to go for recreation, I also strongly feel that people who are living on the streets, it is time. And a number of years ago, a group of us actually tried to start our own safe injection site here, which was swiftly taken down by the police. So I strongly encourage and hope that someone on the council puts a motion forward to table Councillor Youssef's motion until we can have some further discussion about a safe injection site. And I think this will benefit all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And hello, state your name and your city, please.
Hi, Darlene Bernard, and I'm in Maple Ridge. Yeah, I hear everybody. I do have a couple of questions. First being safe injection. When I think of what is being injected, the statistics have shown overwhelmingly that the drugs that are being injected are not safe at all. These people, everyone needs help, and there has to be an alternative. And I agree with Tracy, and I agree with everybody else. They do need a place to go. We've been here for a while, and the only thing, and it's always, even when I was running for mayor, we always hear about demolition and, taking away or, okay, I classify it as taking away homes and putting up boxes. Everybody, they need treatment. They do need a place to go. And I think maybe just put everything else aside and come up with alternatives that are going to work. You can't keep doing the same thing. It's not working. And if you're not going to look at the numbers, then I'm sorry, but that's pretty ignorant because people are suffering. They're not only suffering, they are dying in large numbers. Generations have been lost by this supposed drugs that everybody want to okay and create safe injections. They're not safe. And I think it's time we realize this and start looking at other alternatives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Sorry, yeah, we'll have to go. Yeah. State your name and your city, please.
Craig Spears, Maple Ridge. Yeah, 2,200, over 2,200 people died last year. Most of them young people from poison drug supply. I mean, it's brutal. If somebody's addicted and want to use, quite frankly, I want to be able to keep an eye on them in case they overdose. I keep naloxone in both my cars, my car and my truck, just in case, because that's 2,200 families that are grieving a lost one, loved one. And most of them are young men, healthy young men. So I really appreciate Councillor Joseph bringing this forward because it points out that we already have a bylaw on the books. I think it was passed last year that deals with this consumption in the park. Will the police really want to deal with this? I don't think so. Our CSOs will be put in a very difficult position because it's illegal to possess small amounts. And we don't want desperate people. We don't want people hiding in corners. We just don't want that. So I appreciate bringing this forward, but it underlines the need for a safe consumption site. And if, you know, I'll go with the people that are, you know, on the street and aware of what the situation is to point us in that direction, because if there's enough people to deserve a safe consumption site, we should have one. I lost a friend's son used to do work with me for me. And he was no raving drug addict, but you know, now he's gone and can't come back.
Thank you very much. Sorry for your loss. Okay.
Bob Stewart, Maple Ridge. I agree that there should be some sort of help for the people that need it. But if we are going to create some sort of safe consumption site, it cannot be in a residential area. I live in an area across from the Community Resources Hub, and I understand council knows what goes on there. We've had nothing but problems in our neighborhood since that site was used, and I don't want to see it happen to any other neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question on the agenda.
Sorry, just one second, please.
Sorry.
We're good? Okay, good.
Faye Isaac, Maple Ridge.
Maple Ridge, thank you very much.
I have a question on the agenda, and that's about McNutt. Has McNutt now got water and sewer to their properties? Sorry.
Mr. Goddard? Or Ms. Mullen?
Through the chair, they have water. They do not have sewer. It will be on septic.
That would be on septic. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I agree with Tam that they need to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else in council chambers or online that wish to speak to or ask questions? Seeing none. Only one round, right? Yeah. All right. Well, then we will officially call that an end to our public question period. Thank you very much. We're going to move to item 14. Mayor and councillor verbal reports. Is there anybody that wishes to speak? Councillor Duick, followed by Councillor Schiller, followed by Councillor Youssef and Councillor Carreras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to touch on a couple of things. We attended all of us except for Councillor Dozie, unfortunately, the Lower Mainland Local Government Association, and we was really well done. I really liked the way that they did the presentations, and I think the best part for me this time was the topics were relevant to local government versus just having a speaker come in. So they touched on things like positive campaigns. They touched on the effects of code of conduct bylaws and things that are relevant to us as local government. And then on the weekend, the home show was really well attended, and I want to really do a shout out to Karen Hansen for organizing it. I know she had some help as well, but Karen pretty much was the one that took care of the whole thing, and she did an amazing job. We asked residents to engage them because often they just walk by because it's the city booth. So we asked them a question. Last year's question was different than this year. They asked, what commercial retail opportunities would you like to see in the city of Maple Ridge? And Costco was by far the highest number of people that said they wanted a Costco. And then when they asked about retail, we asked them to be specific around what kind of retail. So like clothing store, okay, give us some examples, and then outdoor stores. So staff are going to coordinate all of that feedback and bring back a report so that council has a really good understanding of what it is that people are asking. Because it's all well and good to say, I want more clothing stores, but what kind of clothing stores, right? So it was really well done. I really appreciated the work of staff and everyone that attended. I attended my BIA Safety and Security meeting yesterday, Business Improvement Association. And we had a discussion around the CSO program, the fact that it's that time of the year where the RCMP are going to have foot patrols. So just how is it that we can support businesses and make sure that they have the support they need but to open their business so that it's safe for them, and who to call, and coordinating that who to call, because Chamber has who to call numbers, BIA has who to call. So they were talking about how can we do it. So maybe the city of Maple Ridge can coordinate that. And Tyler graciously said that he would look at how we could do that so that it's one kind of pamphlet that goes out to everybody. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. I wanted to share that I recently attended a Fraser Valley Regional Library Board meeting, and I've talked before about the library's playground collection, and they have a new item that I wanted to highlight. It's a thermal leak detector. And so this is a little device that you can check out from the library, just like you would a book or a DVD, and you can take it home and it will help you find energy leaks from your home. And of course, finding these leaks and stopping them can save us all money on our energy bills. I will definitely be checking that out. And I also just wanted to thank members of Hub Cycling who took a number of us on a cycling tour of downtown yesterday, and it was very, very informative and enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I did enjoy that bike ride too. Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, I'd like to recognize the group that we have in chambers today and the community coming out. As Councillor Schiller and I were discussing earlier, I wish every single council meeting was attended with this many people. So thank you for coming out and expressing your views. On to my report, Mr. Chair. I also attended the Lower Mainland Local Government Association conference and was delighted to see a resolution fail that spoke to tax exemptions on places of worship and putting the onus on individual city councils to be able to decide whether places of worship are to be tax exempt or not. That's not a motion that would speak to inclusivity and diversity and being open to all walks of life. Also, while there, I was also delighted to see a resolution that was put forward by the city of New Westminster, pretty much identical to the motion that we will be discussing later on today, banning the open drug use in parks and in all public spaces. And as well, when a Coquitlam city councillor amended the motion to include indoor spaces such as libraries and others, and having the motion passed without a single person in the room, mayors and councillors from all over the Lower Mainland, no one spoke against it, and it was passed. So there is some synergies there that we need to consider. Also, I attended the home show and there's a great amount of attendance, and much like Councillor Dewick, I'd like to commend our city staff for a great job. Being a volunteer myself for the home show, I'd like to recognize the effort that went in by the volunteers and organizers to put together a really well-run home show that was greatly attended, good feedback and support all around from those who approached the booth and spoke to me. I was also at another booth later on in the day at the Friends in Need Food Bank, and I tipped my hat to our community for being so generous and putting up with me trying to hassle money out of them, but it was for a good cause. Lastly, Mr. Chair, you and I and Councillor Tan attended the Ridge Meadows Talent Show yesterday, and I must say, wow, Maple Ridge, there must be something in the water. We have some fabulous performers in our city, in our municipality that certainly have a bright future. It was thoroughly entertaining, and I apologize to city staff and to the organizers for having to run early, but one of my daughters ran out of insulin while we were there, so I did have to run home. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Carreras.
Thank you very much. As you can tell from all of our reports, there's a lot going on, a lot of excitement. Just to clarify, Councillor Youssef, on one of the motions, the motion was to ask the Government of Canada, Health Canada to make parks an excluded zone like schools. It wasn't about banning, it was about making an exclusion like schools and vehicles and airports. So I just want to clarify that. Some really great things happened. I mean, many of us talked about LMLGA, and that was a really wonderful opportunity for us to come together. There was some great debate, as Councillor Youssef alluded to. Really wonderful to build those relationships. We know that those relationships are really what are going to get us through to the end goal. And when we come together with our advocacy groups, whether it's LMLGA or UBCM, we have a much louder voice with the province and with the federal government when we come together united, and they have more opportunities to sort of do that. So I'm glad of the participation there. I just want to highlight that 4 councillors, Councillor Tan, Councillor Duick, Councillor Schiller, and I did one of the pre-conferences, and we did a tour of downtown Chilliwack in the 1881 district. I don't know if any of you have been to downtown Chilliwack, but I've sort of witnessed the transformation that they have done in their downtown core, and it's pretty amazing what they have done. And I encourage all of you to check it out. And the 4 of us were very inspired by what they've done. And we're all like, oh, what can we do here? What can we do here? I want to share a U-Plan. Youth Tank is coming up, and it's on Saturday, June 10th at 6:30 at the Albion Community Center. If you go on the U-Plan's Facebook page, you'll see some more information about how you can participate and get tickets. This is a really exciting event, and we really do need to get out there and support our youth. I've said it many, many times. You hear many times that youth are the future leaders, and I always say they are not the future leaders. They are the leaders of today, and they are doing some pretty amazing things. And I got to witness that in my time as a school trustee. Talking of my former time as a school trustee, I just want to say, everyone, that it's grad season. The first prom of the school district is this Friday. I may be a little biased because my kid is graduating this Friday, but I just want to remind everybody that it is grad season, and to keep your eye open, to say congratulations when you see them all dressed up and out and about. If you're asked to donate to Dry Grad, please donate to Dry Grad. These kids have had 3 years of their high school education interrupted by COVID in very difficult learning environment. And they have really persevered and done some pretty spectacular stuff in some very difficult situations. To the grads, I'm going to be done in a minute. To the grads, I want to say congratulations to making it to this point. Your community is behind you, and we are so proud of you. And just know that you're loved and cared for, and to play safe and to come home. We really want to see you at your cap and gown. And I think as a trustee, this is always sort of a time we celebrated with you, but held our breath. So stay safe, congratulations, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor Rumi. I just wanted to read in the record that May is Asian Heritage Month, and the wonderful exhibit on Japanese Canadians in Maple Ridge, in the Maple Ridge Museum. In 1927, as I'm sure, 30% of the population of Maple Ridge were Japanese, Japanese Canadians, and also owned a lot of land in Maple Ridge. And when World War II came, the Japanese Canadians were interned, regardless of whether or not there was any proof they had any sort of connection to any sort of war effort. And Japanese Canadians, as I think many of us know, were not only interned, but their land was taken from them and redistributed. In other words, stolen and sold. And so this body, the City Council of Maple Ridge in 1942, had a vote and voted unanimously that Japanese citizens of this district should not only be interned, but not welcome back after internment, and their lands and holdings sold and redistributed. We stole land twice, first in colonization and then during internment. And this sits really heavily for me because I want to note that I think this is a really important thing for us to remember, because back then that was considered the right thing to do and the just thing to do, because the Japanese Canadians were them and then the rest of us were us, them and us. And I think none of us today would think that that is the right thing to do and the just thing to do. But back then, every single member of the city council thought that that was the right thing to do. So that holds really heavy for me. And it makes me think that what other errors are we committing now when we call people them or these people, and we call the rest of us. And I like to take that as an opportunity for me to reflect deeply. And I thank everyone here for allowing me to reflect with you on this important topic and how we can do better. We have to think very deeply about how we can do better as a society. Thank you, Mayor Rumi.
Thank you, Councillor Tan, for reminding us of our history sometimes that we don't like to talk about. So I appreciate you bring that up. Seeing how there's no other, I will just echo, because we all went together and we all did stuff and we all had fun. But what I do want to point out, besides the home show and LMLGA, was the talent show that was just held last night. Let me tell you, it was amazing to see the courage of young people to stand on a stage. You know, I mean, there was this one little kid who probably was 5 years old, and he was singing Under the Rainbow. And it was just, it gave me shivers. But that's what community is all about, right? So I just wanted to echo everybody else's feelings, and that's all I have to say. Seeing as how we have no other comments or verbal reports, we're going to move on to item 15. We have a notice of motion by Councillor Youssef. Can you begin, sir, by reading it into the record first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Madam Clerk. How much time do I have to speak to the motion?
Right now, you have to actually just read it.
Okay.
And there's a process. So you move it, someone else will second it, and then you'll get 5 minutes. We'll have 2 rounds of 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that clarification. The notice reads as such: whereas the city of Maple Ridge recognizes the negative impact of open drug use in municipal parks and public spaces and the effects on the safety of our community, specifically families, youth, and children. Therefore, be it resolved that the city of Maple Ridge enact a prohibition of illicit drug use in all city parks and outdoor gathering spaces.
Thank you. Can I get a mover? Seconded by Councillor Doze. So Councillor Youssef, you have the first 5 minutes, and you'll also have the last 5 minutes to speak. So
thank you, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead.
Firstly, I'd like to begin by stating my intent and my drive behind bringing forward a motion. It is certainly that of compassion and not displacement for all people involved, be it, again, our youth, seniors, children, and even the pets that would be exposed to these substances, as well as those that are in the grips of the addiction of these substances. This is not an ideological debate of any kind. My motion is not prescriptive or looking for punitive measures to be carried out against individuals, more so to regulate behavior for the safety of our citizenry at large. I do understand that the Safe Streets bylaw that I voted in favor of last year is not being enforced and carried out. So therefore, my motion is to enable staff, be it bylaws officers, CSOs, or the RCMP in the absence of both, to be able to intervene for the safety of our community. The motion gives direction to staff at a high level without getting too prescriptive. Although we have the legislative authority, it's again not being carried out, and this is why I brought forward my motion. I'd like to read part of the highlights that I provided to mayor and council as part of my supportive documents, where it states that conventional wisdom suggests that neighborhood residence has important implications for individuals' health and development generally, and for substance use specifically. Despite a relative dearth of empirical research, sociological and criminological theory provide a strong foundation for exploring neighborhood influences on residents' behavior and mental health. There is, for example, social disorganization theory that speaks to an extremely influential theory that examines relations between neighbors and crime, suggesting that neighborhood level characteristics can lead to, and do in most cases, have an outcome that would disrupt social organization and lead to crime and delinquency. The social science on neighborhood effects as an independent force in shaping poor outcomes, specifically mental health and criminal behavior. This is why I bring my motion forward, Mr. Chair. This is why I am standing today, be it, if I stand alone, then so be it. But I want to ensure that the future generations have a good outcome or have a chance at that outcome. I moved my family halfway across the world in 2010 to ensure that my children have a better life. Today, we have numerous accounts of pets and children being injured by paraphernalia that's left behind. We have numerous accounts of children seeing persons overdosing and not knowing what is happening, being traumatized repeatedly by the various behaviors and the social disorder that has come of it. Lastly, Mr. Chair, if members of councils, wish to advocate to the province and or Fraser Health to open up the existing supervised consumption rooms that are currently operating in the 3 supportive housing facilities in Maple Ridge, first off, that warrants a separate debate on its own merit. And I would look for the evidence showing those effects on surrounding neighborhoods and in reducing the numbers of overdose deaths, knowing that most of the overdose deaths occur behind closed doors in private residence, and the demographic is generally Caucasian males, 25 to 40-year-olds. That does not affect my motion in any way, shape, or form or take away from it. I simply wish to give children a chance to be children without having to worry about needles, without being traumatized by watching individuals pass before their eyes or come close to it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. So this motion is, I guess, challenging in the sense in the way that it's written. And the way that it's written is to enact, which we have already done. And Councillor Youssef did comment that he was on the council the time last June that did put this language into the bylaws. I do want to just be careful when we start throwing around terms and language, because I just want to comment that we've had no data in front of us to actually support any of the things that we just heard. And I want to be clear on that. I too have lost friends and family members to the opioid crisis. It is a public health crisis. And I attended the funeral of one of my 30-year-old students. So I think that this is a conversation that needs to happen in a very, very thoughtful way and a very compassionate way. But this motion is not that conversation. This motion is to get a bylaw in place, which we already have. And I think that, I understand there is no ability for us to rule it out of order, because I would actually say we should rule it out of order. There's no ability in our rules to do that, but it's redundant. So I will be voting against it for the simple fact on the technicality of it and not about the issue, because I do believe there's some other pieces to that, but this is already in place. And I just want to share with my colleagues that, I was really proud of the work that we did around our strategic planning. I was really proud about how we all came together after the last election, because elections can be very divisive. And I think that we've done an amazing job in the last 6 months. And I said this when I was on council with my fellow board members. Some of them are here. They can say, as I always say, good governance doesn't happen in isolation. It requires all of us to work together. And I just want to share that if you are thinking of doing a resolution, please talk to your fellow colleagues, talk to staff to help draft those resolutions so that they are relevant, they're not redundant, and they're not in what we have already. So again, I'm voting down because the particular motion speaks to something that we already have in place. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Duick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Carreras covered a few of the points that I wanted to raise. I did vote for the bylaw that is currently in place last June, and it is our public places and parks and recreation facilities regulation, and it clearly talks about the use of illicit drugs and alcohol and everything in our public places and our parks. So I agree that we need to ensure the safety of everyone, which also includes those individuals, as we've heard, that find themselves in that situation. I think the challenge is, since that bylaw was passed, we had an election. The criminal code was changed. We have our bylaws, our CSOs, our Westridge Security, our CMP are challenged with a number of tasks at hand right now. And I heard that loud and clear yesterday at the safety and security meeting. So for me, the conversation needs to happen around the table in a workshop format. We need to ask staff to bring back some information as to how we move forward. We just finalized the budget tonight. We included a couple of additional RCMP. We included some 2 parks ambassadors. There's a variety of things that we can do to work with the individuals that need help. And that's the key piece here. We hear lots of success about the hub program. We hear lots of success with all the outreach. I had a presentation yesterday, Maple Ridge Street Outreach Society, and they're talking about working specifically with businesses because they appreciate that it's difficult for them, but at the same time, how do we help these individuals? So this isn't an us and them, and thank you, Councillor Tan. It kind of hits at home. We absolutely have to consider the safety of everyone, and we need to ensure that how it is that we're going to do that. Make no mistake about it, we're going to move them from the park. They're not going away. We're simply relocating them somewhere else. So the question for me is, yes, families have to feel safe too, coming down to our park, to the leisure center and all of that. But it's, where do we take them? How do we connect them with services? How do we get them treatment? Nobody's talking about treatment on demand. The young man that I was talking to yesterday out from the Maple Ridge Street Outreach Society, he said, when people want help, they need help today, not next week, not 2 weeks from now. So, but that's a different conversation, which is where I would like to see council have that conversation, which talks about all of the people that spoke tonight. They all raised some good concerns. And how is it that we have that conversation? Because it's about how do we prevent this? How do we assist those that are in that situation? And I guess the most important message is, how do we make it safe for everybody? There's no doubt that downtown, there is, we don't have updated stats, as was mentioned, but I think it's when people see individuals camped out and that it automatically, it resonates that it's not safe. So we need to pay attention to that. Which is why I supported this bylaw last June. But unfortunately, I can't vote for this because it already exists. So the motion on the floor is redundant. It's here. So what the conversation we need to have is, how do we support everybody? How do we continue to do the great work that we've been doing and supporting the people that need our help, the people that come to our businesses? How do we continue to do that? So I can't support the motion because it's redundant. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. I just wanted to start by acknowledging the efforts of Councillor Youssef in bringing this forward and reflecting, concerns that we're hearing from members of the community. And I think it's a good thing that we're having this discussion. And I absolutely believe that the city has an important role to play in contributing to a safe and livable community for all of our residents. And there are many behaviors that as a society we agree are not acceptable in public. And municipalities have obligations to reflect that. I personally agree that open illicit drug use in public spaces is not appropriate. As has been mentioned here at this table, we are speaking tonight on this specific motion. The city currently has a bylaw in place that prohibits the use of illegal drugs in public spaces and also includes wording prohibiting conduct that is disorderly, dangerous, or offensive. I'm new to this and I feel like I'm missing information that I need to support this. I don't have information on the choices around the wording of the existing bylaw. I imagine there was some specific reasons that wording was used, and I'm not clear on what that is. I haven't had the opportunity to hear from staff what their experience in working with the existing bylaw is. And so I know that other municipalities are enacting similar bylaws. And again, this just sort of reflects a current conversation that's happening. Some cities are being successful with that, some are not. And I believe that there's also action being taken at other levels of government that speaks to the same issue. So when I look at that, I know that directing staff to create, implement, and enforce a new bylaw is a big piece of work. And I feel strongly that there needs to be a more fulsome discussion at the council table before moving forward and responding to this. So I look forward to hearing from the other councillors, but I do not feel that the specific motion is the best way to move forward, and my inclination is to vote against it. I am committed to continuing to participate in the conversation with the business community and with the public about these types of issues that we are facing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Mayor Rumi. I am gladdened by having this conversation around the council table, because what I hear from this is that we stand united as a council for public safety, for compassion, and for helping lift all of us together as a society. And so when I think about this issue of illicit drug use, I think also of the larger issue about the health of all of us, the safety of all of us. And when I think about problems, I think about the first thing my mind goes to, is this a short-term solution? Is this a Band-Aid solution, or is this a solution that looks at the root causes of a very complex problem? And I think that all of us, when we campaigned and we ran to be city councillors here and to be leaders of the society, what we did was we signed an implicit pact with our community that we are going to challenge ourselves to find thoughtful solutions for complex problems, that we're not going to offer up Band-Aid solutions or superficial solutions. And I think that Maple Ridge deserves that. So when I look at this, I think about what are we doing here? And so and just looking at this rate from in terms of solving the first problem on the surface, I see also that our law enforcement officers are severely overburdened. First of all, our RCMP has told us that they have some of the highest workloads of all RCMP detachments in the Lower Mainland. They do not have time or capacity for this. I understand our community safety officers are also incredibly burdened by the workloads they already have. So when I look at this, I think, what is a good use of social resources here? Is it to further criminalize people who are largely poor and unable to find housing somewhere? Because folks who are middle income and above have homes they can use it. And I reflect on what the chief coroner said, that we need to be very careful as a society to not cause any fear mongering. We need to be careful that we don't enact laws against poor people. And I reflect as well that when we are here as a council, that we are here to create evidence-based solutions. Like my colleague, Councillor Youssef said, this is not an ideological debate. This is far from it. At the municipal government level, we do not have the luxury of debating theory and ideology. What we do need to do is we need to save people's lives with the very, very, very few resources that we have. So I'm very interested in hearing through the chair to staff or and a later discussion about evidence-based solutions informed by the public health officer, who has certainly more credentials and knowledge on this than I think any of us around the table have. I'm interested from hearing from public health. And I think a lot about, what we've heard from our businesses, that open and illicit drug use is incredibly problematic. We get it. I think we get around the council table that if folks use in public, that many folks don't feel safe. And I think that we as a council agree that public safety is for all of us, every one of us, regardless where we are on the socioeconomic scale, we need to live public safety for all of us. So in closing, Mr. Mayor, I will not be in support of this motion because I have not seen any evidence to back this motion or this specific problem, because I think we need to be very careful as mayor and council. We need to be clear about what the problem we have is. Like my colleague, Councillor Duerk said, if we move people from parks, they're going to use somewhere else, maybe somewhere that's more unsafe, likely somewhere that's more unsafe, where people who do want to, where criminal elements will approach people, and our society will likely become more unsafe as a result. So we need to be very careful about what will come, the unintended consequences of any bylaw that we put in. I think that as mayor and council, we need to be very careful and hold ourselves responsible for that. So I look forward, Mr. Mayor, to that advice from the public health officer and from Fraser Health. And I just want to say in closing, I'm very glad that we as a council stand united for public safety.
Thank you very much. Councillor Doze. Is it working?
People can hear me.
Oh, sorry, just 1 second, because we do need, it needs to be heard into the record. Can we check his microphone, please?
Let me borrow one here.
Yeah, or you can use Judy's. You can use Councillor.
I can use that one if you want.
No, you can use Councillor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you don't get to stand up there.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, Your Worship. And I think this is sabotage. The technology is trying to sabotage my opportunity to actually put up my views on this particular very important issue. For those who probably must have been watching the proceedings of this House, I'm not given to jump into conclusion when I want to make my statements. I take my time to listen. I want to say that the issue on the floor today is very, very important to me as a person. I have been very, very unlucky that I walk the streets and see these things. And when I get to my office, the only way I see sunlight is to see the ambulance coming every day to take people away who are being overdosed on illicit drugs. I've also had the painful opportunity of burying a young one, not even here, in the very village where I was born. I know what it means for parents to see their children go down that road. Your Worship, I want to say that the very main reason why I was the first person that raised my card here to second this motion is because I wanted to make sure that no voice is scuttled in any way or form. I want each and every one of us to have their say on this matter. I'm also thankful to the audience who came in this afternoon to lay their views down here for everybody to understand. But either way, I want to say two things. One, there's a general consensus among every one of us here that drug is costing us lives. It's taking away our future. Secondly, one thing I see that we are missing is that the city of Maple Ridge is the first city on record I can see from what is happening now that has this issue of making sure that illicit drugs are not used in our common places and recreational facilities. We have it in our books. Now, as my colleague has said, New Westminster is just trying to pass their first one, or Queensland is trying to pass their first one. Nobody is giving Maple Ridge the encomium, I would say, they deserve for being the first to pass this and have it in our statute books. Now, what I can tell you for certain that we need is implementation. And for those of us who had, just like Councillor Khan has stated, RCMP made it clear to us that they need more hands. And we looked at the budget when we were doing this. We tried to provide for that as much as we can, but we haven't really got the resources to this. There's a lot of things that we need money for. And I want us to look at this particular issue with empathy, compassion. Think about the parents who are losing their children. And for this, I would like to say that what I want to see is that this house will sit down here and make sure that we don't leave until we give the staff everything they need to start enforcing what we have in our books and not just creating a new one, because it doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe that we have to go about making laws that are not implemented. Implementation is what we need. And people have spoken here telling us, giving us ideas of what is required. It's not new, we all know. So you cannot take someone away from the street without taking them where they will get help. I worked for more than 5 years at the Riverview Hospital, and I know what it means. So please, Your Worship, I think that what we need here is to think about what we can provide to staff and everyone that is involved to make sure that the statutes we have in the bylaws we have in our statute books are implemented to the letter, because that is what we need, and that is what each and every one of us is talking about, rather than creating a new one. For this, I must say that I will not be supporting this motion as it is. I will definitely support a situation where we go ahead and implement the laws that will help our people and save lives. That is what is very important to me. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I guess it's my turn now. Before we go on to round two, this is a tough one. There is nobody in this room that wants kids to see people shooting up. Absolutely nobody. I need to make that clear. So what do we do from here? Last year in June, as been stated before, the bylaw was put into place. Since then, there was an election, as Councillor Duick has said. January 31st, there was the provincial government on a 3-year pilot project of decriminalizing small amounts of drugs. That is well within their rights because they're the provincial government. So I have to ask myself, in anything we do, are we helping the problem or are we compounding it? We can sit here all night and talk about addicts in the street. We can talk about people shooting up. We can talk about people doing drugs. But there's one factor that we cannot get away from. They've got nowhere else to go. Like it or not, that is a fact. They're not going to jail. That's not the way the system works. At this current time, there is no mandatory treatment. It would be nice if there were more beds for treatment. And again, that is something that we need to advocate on behalf of the provincial government and the federal government. So I won't be supporting this only because it's redundant. It's already in the bylaws. And there's not enough information. I've heard some numbers thrown around. There is not enough information since January 31st when the decriminalization happened. There's a tendency to jump on that and say, oh my God, this is what's happening. It's rampant all over the place. But that's anecdotal. There is not a lot of information that's coming out. In fact, the chief coroner has not seen that and has stated that on the record. So where do we go from here? The conversation that we need to continue to have. However, as we're sticking to the motion, there's no reason for me to support this because it's already in the bylaws. We need to look at what else can we be doing as a council? What levers can we pull as a council? This is sad to say, but this is a poverty issue. If you go out and ticket homeless people, well, that doesn't mean anything because they have no way of paying. In fact, by ticketing them, you are making things worse for them because you're taking away any hope that they have. This conversation is the conversation we should be having. That's not the conversation that's on record today. So we need to deal with the motion at hand. As such, as I said, I will not be supporting it because it's already in the books. Thank you. All right, we're going to go to round 2. Councillor Duick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to leave the impression that nothing is happening because I think what we need to do is ask through the CAO for a update to come to council as a whole. So I hear a bunch of stats at the BIA safety meeting, and our CSOs are continuously working with individuals that need assistance. Our bylaws, our Westridge security, I heard it loud and clear yesterday. So I don't want to leave the impression that nothing is happening, but I agree with Councillor Dozy that we need to have an update as to how do we implement and ensure that our bylaw is being adhered to, but at the same time, is there challenges with the fact that the province came down with the orders that they did? So I think I don't want to leave the impression, as everyone around the table, we all agree that it's something we need to continue to focus on. So for me, it's important that all of council gets an update through the CAO, however that comes into a workshop, so that we all can get this information and hear about the challenges that individuals are facing as businesses. We all see it. Nobody is going to say that their eyes are closed, but to suggest that nothing is happening isn't accurate either, because our CSOs are working all the time, every day. I have the numbers right here. I'm not going to share it because it's not my place to do that. I'll let that come through the proper channels, but they're out there. Westridge Security is out there. Everybody, our community outreach, as we've heard. So there's a lot of individuals, the hub, so we need to have the report so that we can have this fulsome discussion about what it looks like. Councillor Youssef mentioned there is already facilities for safe use. So whether it's injection or not, I'm not going to get into that tonight. So I think it's beneficial for us as a council as a whole to have this information. One of the challenges with notices of motions is that when it comes from an individual, it puts the rest of council in that predicament of not having the same information. And we don't want to leave the impression that we don't want to support one another, because I think we have proven around the table through strategic planning that we're actually all on the same page. Pretty much. There's the odd issue here and there that we might have a little bit of a difference of opinion, but we all want what's best for the community as a whole. We all said loud and clear that citizens have a right to be safe. And I say citizens, meaning everybody. And most importantly, as was said, families and young children should not witness this. Nobody will disagree with any of those statements. I don't see anybody shaking their head in the audience. So I think it's just having a further conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure how this got misconstrued as such, but my motion, I see it as not redundant. I see it as, and I use the word enact, because I'm looking for council to provide direction to staff and to have a plan on how to secure our playgrounds and parks and public gathering spaces. Knowing and understanding that the bylaw does exist, yes. However, in light of receiving the 2 letters of concern from the BIA and the Chamber of Commerce, in light of the decriminalization that has recently occurred, and I underline recently, hence why we don't have the data as of yet. Forgive me for being proactive, but anyone who knows me knows that I am proactive and I don't shy away from controversy. So here we are. I'm glad that we're having this discussion around the table, and I'm glad that we're all getting our views out. However, my primary goal and objective is to secure our facilities that are built predominantly for children, youth, families, and seniors. We have the bylaw in place. We also have a significant amount of concern that has been expressed by residents as well as businesses. Possession is one thing. Use is another. So let's not conflate those 2 issues. We also, in Maple Ridge, have a co-location policy for schools and parks. So by protecting our parks and ensuring that they are safe, we're also securing our schools from these very dangerous substances. And based on the budget that we've just approved, I believe the city has the tools to proceed with securing our parks, especially in light of the 2 additional RCMP officers. And I believe there's also allocation for 2 CSOs as well. I don't deny that this is a very, very complex issue. And yes, we all need to do our part and do what's within our purview. And as a city councilor here in Maple Ridge, I see that pushing staff to come up with a plan and giving them direction to secure those facilities, the parks, is within our purview. And I dare say it's taking one bite out of the elephant at a time. This has nothing to do with one's socioeconomic status. I refuse to have this characterized as a motion against the poor. Absolutely not. I don't care if you're driving a Bentley or a Rolls Royce. If you're using drugs in front of children in a park, that is not allowed, regardless of your socioeconomic status, fixed address or not. That's not where I'm going with this. Lastly, Mr. Chair, I believe that my motion gives our bylaws officers and our CSOs the tools to continue doing the work that they are doing, to intervene for the safety of not only the citizenry at large, but also the people that are in the grips of addiction, and to ensure that they are connected to services. Hence, me bringing forward the motion. I understand that it may read a certain way, and I am open to amendments such as, for example, enact the existing prohibition of illicit drug use in all city parks and outdoor public gathering spaces. I don't believe that would cause or trigger a new bylaw. That was never my aim. I'm very well aware of the bylaws that are on the books, and hence why I wanted, as I said earlier, to provide direction and to get a plan of action moving forward to secure these facilities for the user groups that they were established for. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carreras.
Just quickly, first of all, I'm wondering if Councillor Youssef can just not use the term taking a bite out of an elephant. I think we just need to, I know you've heard it said it twice now and it just bothers me every time. So I just need to say that. I think that we're going to have some further discussions on this. And I think that everyone around the table has said we need further discussions on this. And Councillor Duick talked about we need the data. Like, we can't be making decisions in the absence of data. It is incredibly important. And the only thing I ask that this is a public health emergency, and UBCM supported decriminalization. That's all of us around the province, mayors and councils supported this. But the encouragement that we get from UBCM is to work with our public health officers. And I would just hope that any further discussions on this always includes public health in those discussions, because this is a public health emergency. Also, just to clarify, schools are covered by the exclusion in the federal legislation, so they're not the same as parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Doze, followed by Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to reiterate the fact that for too long, our city has been poorly and badly characterized. And that characterization will endure if we fail to take action on a day like this. I want to appeal to each individual listening to me here to understand that our city deserves some peace. We need to really sit down and think and ask ourselves questions. For too long, we have been fighting ourselves and talking about nonsense when people are losing their lives and things are going south. The time for action is now. And I want each and every one of you, when you stand up here to say something, remember that we have to provide hope for the helpless. Someone's son, someone's child is dying. We just don't have to continue to talk about things without really putting action down. And your worship, what I'm asking for here, upon the motion that was put on the floor here, is that we should be able to leave this place by giving a mandate to staff to come up with a roadmap to a resolution, or at least an attempt to show empathy to our fellow citizens that are suffering, to show empathy to parents that are weeping every day and night. Think about it. I cannot see any responsible parent that will see a child that they took their time to raise in the street shooting. And we are here talking about whether it is going to be in public or in private. There's a problem. There's an epidemic. There's a lot of death being recorded. And I want to suggest very strongly, Mr. Chair, that the time for action is now. We have seen this argument time and time again in the past, and I don't want to be associated with too many arguments and actions. I mean, arguments without actions. The time for action is now, and I know that we have sworn to ourselves here to work together as a team for the betterment of Maple Ridge. This will not put a knife into what held us together and let us fall apart. This is not the time. The time now is for us to think about a solution and not just to be here arguing about things. So please, I want to plead with each and every one of us, both those of us in council here and those of us watching from at home and in the auditorium here, that we have to really understand that there is a general consensus among each and every one of us that we have a problem. All we are trying to do is to find a solution. And I'm thinking that we have enough laws in our books. All we need to do is start implementing them. And the time to implement them is right now and not tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor Rumi. And I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Dozier that we need to treat this issue of empathy and also with action. And I want to note that there are many municipalities all across the Lower Mainland and all across North America that are dealing with this very complex problem. And I say this not to say that we can then leave the problem as is, but to say, to acknowledge that it is a complex problem. And the question now then is, we've all agreed that this is a problem. And so what is the tool to solve it with? So the tool currently proposed is the one motion as we see in front of us. And my perspective on this is that I would, as has been suggested by my colleagues at Council Carreras, we do need to get public health involved with this, because I think it would be hubris on our part to say that we around this horseshoe know the exact solution that would be the long-term solution to this very complex problem faced by and tackled by all municipalities across North America. So the question of whether do we have enough enforcement for this? Do we have enough capacity for this? I think right now is a moot point. It is not the most important question on the table right now. The most important question, as Councillor Dozier said, is to have a roadmap. Have a roadmap that we are confident that is backed by experts, backed by evidence, that we can all feel comfortable with. And I think this is a good opener of a discussion. And I think we need to go further here. So I look forward to seeking the expert advice of the public health officer of Fraser Health. And from there, working with staff like bylaw officers, like the whole ecosystem of resources that our city has. And together we can come together with a long-term solution. So again, I'm going to vote against this motion because I think that we are preemptively, in a way, putting the cart before the horse. We have not yet had a wholesome, fulsome discussion of what the long-term solution to a complex problem is. And that is the question, the discussion that we need to have. Thanks, Mayor Rumi.
Thank you. Seeing no other, I will add my piece to this. I'm not going to rehash the whole thing. I did want to comment on one thing Councillor Youssef said, that this is not attack on poor people. I would disagree with that. People who are living on the street are the very essence of poor. They don't have the resources to treat themselves. They don't have the ability to go home and do their drugs. People who are alcoholics, they drink at home. We don't know how much they drink. We don't know what challenges they get into, but that's what they do. They have a roof over their head. They have food in the fridge. They probably have a car. Maybe a lot of them have jobs. They have options and they have choices. The very essence of being homeless is being poor with no hope whatsoever. So again, it's on the record that says you can't do drugs in a public park, for instance. So my question then becomes, where do you want them to do the drugs? In the bushes? Behind buildings? Behind whatever? You know, these are folks that likely, you know, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. That is the very essence of poverty. So it's already in the books. This is not the solution that that I'm hearing is going to solve the issue. It's not a solution that's going to give more information or tools to staff to solve the issue. As been mentioned, we've just passed our budget tonight. We've added 2 new police officers. We're going to be adding 2 new bylaw officers. We have CSOs that are on the streets that are working with them. We have organizations such as Community Services, School District 42. They're all doing their best to work with the people on the streets. So if we are to come together, it should be to find out what our next step is. We have the bylaw. What's our next step? Sadly, it's not a conversation we can have today because we don't have the relevant information. We've heard from our audience tonight, people talking about safe consumption sites. That's a hard topic to have. People would be divided in this community, but it's not a reason to shy away from having that conversation. Again, that's not a conversation for tonight because that's not what's in front of us. What's in front of us is a motion that is redundant and is already in place. So I will end it there. As I said, I won't be supporting this. I think we've gone through 2 full rounds and I will then call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Which card are you using? Okay, so motion has been defeated 6-1. Thank you very much for the conversation. I look forward to more conversations. I will say, now that the motion has been defeated, I hear what everybody's saying. So I will turn to Mr. Hartman and ask for staff, RCMP, bylaws, CSOs, to come back to us with real data. What's happening out there? What are we seeing out there? What's working? What's not working? So if I can, and we have to include public health, of course. So if I can ask Mr. Hartman to do that, that would be great. Thank you very much. Seeing as how there's no other business, I will adjourn for the evening. Thank you very much, everybody.